Cup Series race. Here are your hosts, Kevin Bedstone, NASCAR Sky, and Jeff Davis.
Welcome back, NASCAR Nation, to another awesome episode of Mash the Gas podcast, the standard for NASCAR Cup Series coverage. We're here to break down all of the action from Go Bowling at the Glen, Watkins Glen, New York. Amazing territory up there. My name, Kevin Batstone. Joining me shortly, NASCAR Sky, Jeff Davis, and we have a special guest. Stay tuned. Lauren Holmes joining the show here in just a little bit. But first, Jeff, who mashed it the hardest this weekend?
Well, guys, he got his first win of the year, his 7th career win, all of them at road courses. But SVG knocked it down, leading 74 laps. So, it was amazing seeing him as fast as he was. He just has something, that magic. I think it's in his feet, that where he can just go through these courses. He dropped down after a stop once, marched all the way back up to the front. So we have to give it up to old SVG, guys.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone is surprised by that in the slightest. He is just, I don't even know, bounds and leaps ahead of everyone on these road courses. It's almost comical a little bit. I thought it was pretty funny on the white flag when Mike Joyce said, or the mercy flag for the rest of the field. I thought that was pretty funny because he is just in a league of his own.
It really is amazing to see what SVG was able to do once again. I mean, this would have been 7 road courses in a row had he have pulled off COTA. Obviously, we know Tyler Reddick got him there earlier in the year. Decent day for Reddick, but SVG overcoming an almost 30-second deficit by pitting there and just knocking him down. I mean, we heard Clint and Kevin up in the booth saying, I don't know, he might need a caution to get there. And Larry Mack's like, well, our trend shows with 4 to go, he's probably going to be there. He was there well before that and still finished with over a 7-second lead over the field. So, Sky, he's back into the chase now. Good points day for them. That's exactly what they needed.
For sure. Trackhouse has to get something going, definitely in the standings. Especially, it just seems like, I was looking, obviously we know Ross isn't faring too well right now, but it's Alex Bowman. Even with all those races off, he's 2 spots away from taking over Connor Zilic, which is so surprising, and it sucks to see what happened to him at the end of the race. I mean, but that's something that you're just going to learn with time. You can't use up all of your tires like that, and expect a good finish. But yeah, I mean, SVG is just, it makes me wonder if he is even giving his all, or if he's kind of toying. They're saying, the trend said that he, would have got there 4 to go, and he was there, before that. It just makes me feel like he's not giving his all every time, that if he did, he'd probably be it'd be an even worse showing.
Either way, it was a great race. I mean, it really was surprising watching him go. And I'll tell you, one team that actually did impress me for this race was RCR. As far as qualifying goes, Austin Dillon had a P25 and Kyle Busch was in P21, but yet they finished the race with Austin Dillon getting a P6 and old Kyle Busch in the 8 car getting P8. So that team kind of impressed me as well.
Big turnaround, and those guys needed it. They needed a strong weekend. We've talked about RCR and kind of what they're dealing with all year. We talked about Kyle Busch's new crew chief. Kyle was a little bit under the weather, still was able to bring it home. P8, that's exactly what those guys need, is just to keep chipping away at it, kind of be there at the end. Tough day for Joey Logano, though, Sky. I mean, just the bleeding kind of continues for some of that just being snake bit, as John Force used to say in the racing world.
The sirens are starting to go a little bit. I'm starting to get a little nervous, but it's also just, all you got to do is win 2 or 3 races, and then you're in a way better points position. It was good. I mean, he ultimately, before what happened with his tire, he did get some stage points, so that was good there. Cindric too. I mean, Cindric had a really good race, and he had a beautiful car. I thought his car looked so good, so it was nice to see him up there getting a lot of screen time, but bringing it home in the top 10. And then Blaney doing well. I think he finished 11th or 12th. So I don't know. Cindric seems to be one of the Penske guys that really got his footing lately, because even Blaney, I feel it's not fully Blaney's fault. Obviously, his pit crew's been causing him some grief this year, but I don't know. Cindric's doing a lot better.
I think Cindric's pretty good on these road courses as well. Like you mentioned, he got a top 10. He came in P9. But back to your favorite, Joey Logano, he's just had a rough few go-arounds. I mean, the last 4 races, his best finish is P30 at Kansas. Talladega, DNF, Texas 37th, and at Watkins Glen 38th. So Joey, I think he's got it in him to go, but he's really going to have to step it up.
Yeah, I don't think it's approaching that zone as we're coming up on the All-Star race here, where maybe it's time to panic. But I just feel like there's so many good racetracks coming up for Joey, and we know these Penske Fords do have speed. I don't think it's time to completely panic just yet for those guys. He's obviously sitting 18th in points. We know how quick that can turn around with this new points here, system as we approach the chase. Like we've said all year, though, I mean, it's going to be difficult unless you're inside that top 6, 7, 8. I feel like when we get to the start of this chase to have a legitimate shot at winning this title.
For sure. And with Chicagoland coming back, Joey, one thing about him, and I don't understand this, it's almost just like the whole even odd number thing. He can go out and win whenever we go to these new tracks for the first time. I mean, he's done it. He did it at Bristol, the LA Coliseum, North Wilkesboro. So, yeah, you never know. With Chicagoland coming up, maybe that's where he finally turns the season around.
I'm stoked that Chicagoland is back. I've always loved that racetrack, kind of a sister track to Kansas. Got that slope back straightaway. It's put on some great racing. I mean, it's just always been a good track there in Joliet, just south of Chicago. Great market for the sport. Did a tire test there, just a handful of weeks ago, and back to our mile and a half packages. I think that's going to be a great addition once we get into the midsummer season challenge. So, but Watkins Glen, we were kind of kicking that around, moving it back to May. Jeff, there was mud. There was a lot of different things that played into this race that we haven't seen. I mean, it was one of the first times that I can recall where Fox called a Watkins Glen race, because forever it's been in August, September. So we usually see the second half of the year covered by another network. So just kind of interesting all around. We're hearing some rumors it might get pushed to, into the chase for next year. And I think that's probably where it belongs.
That'd be just one road course in the chase. So it's probably, as far as, when you talk about short tracks, your cookie cutters or your mile and a half to super speedways, the ratio actually does work out with having one road course in there. But, speaking of extensions on contracts, guy, your other guy, Ryan Blaney, he just signed a multi-year deal, along as we just found out, Ricky Stenhouse did too.
It definitely is. I can't wait to see the other ones that trickle down, answer a lot of questions that we've been, throwing around the last year or so on the podcast. But yeah, I mean, Blaney does so well in the 12. I love having him. Well, obviously, I'm not anything with Team Penske, but as a Team Penske fan, I love being able to root for him and have him in the 12. He does good. His sponsors seem to really love him and everything. So I'm glad to see him back. I will say I've been on high alert a little bit with obviously, as a Jets fan, I'm always very nervous that something bad is going to happen. So when I seen it come up and it said breaking news, Ryan Blaney, I almost was so scared that he was leaving for a second before I read it. So I'm glad that I read it and realized that he was staying for the next few years.
Those headlines can be alarming, especially as a Patriots fan right now. But I don't have time to go into that because speaking of Ricky Stenhouse, we have an exclusive guest joining the program now. Lauren Holmes, husband Eric, full-time spots for Ricky. Lauren does some secondary spotting. We're about to dive into this interview on our way back from Watkins Glen. Lauren, thanks for taking some time out to join Mash the Gas.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
How was the race weekend? What were your thoughts on it? I heard a lot of conflicting reports of it being muddy. The weather was concerning with us, pushing it back to May. It was windy. What was your take?
Oh my gosh. My take, well, it was definitely muddy. I saw motorhomes getting literally craned out. Honestly, I feel like the weather was kind of a disaster. It was freezing cold. I think on Friday I had literally 6 layers of clothes on, and nearly the same on Saturday, and I had 3 or 4 on yesterday. Yesterday was definitely the nicest, but I really think NASCAR needed to take a deep look at this because it was not ideal as far as weather and timing. Definitely muddy and cold.
So I think it is going to be pretty interesting when we're going to move Watkins Glen into the chase next year, and that's going to be in a September race. So I don't know if it's better in September or if it was this year.
I would like to say I think it's probably better. I mean, I think ideally everybody up there and the fans, from what I heard, would prefer it to be in August, but I think September is probably more ideal than May, or the beginning of May. Been worse, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think 2 years ago they did September and then they moved it back to August, and so yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I know that they've already been putting out to sell camping spots, and I mean, gosh, Watkins Glen's been sold out. It's a great crowd. Everybody up north loves it. I'm struggling to get behind NASCAR on this one.
I heard the fans were really good out there for this race. I know you said you were on what between the or right after the carousel between turns 5 and 6. By chance, did you happen to catch that tent go flying up in the air and cause that caution?
I didn't see it at first. I had my binoculars. I was looking in the like in one of the jumbo screens, kind of like the one towards maybe like the bus stop, and I could see it. I think our second spotter was like, "Oh my God, there's a tornado going through the infield," and then that's when I realized that I think there were two things flying, but I think before NASCAR actually threw the caution, it had blown out back over the track, and so um, I don't know. For me personally, I was glad there was a caution. Like I, I feel like we needed to like tighten back up the field, so I was good with that.
And then there was the kind of questionable no call caution there exiting the bus stop with Cody Ware with about 10 or 11 to go. We all heard on the broadcast Kevin Harvick say the caution's coming. There's the yellow, and we never saw it.
Yeah, so in the cup race, my husband is actually Ricky Stenhouse's primary spotter. And I heard him say there's probably going to be a caution. And then about a lap later, he was like, okay, I guess there's not going to be a caution. So I didn't really see it because like I kind of just have my zone between like the carousel and six. Um, and so it wasn't until playback later that I saw all of that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, clearly there probably should have been a caution for that.
And so, Lord, for our folks here at Match the Gas that maybe don't know who you are, what you do with NASCAR, just give us kind of a quick overview, and then we'll let NASCAR Sky jump in here. Just a little bit of an overview on kind of who you are, what you do for the sport, how you got involved.
Yeah. So my husband is actually Eric Holmes. He is a three-time NASCAR champion for the West Series. And then my son-in-law is actually Todd Gilliland. He's married to our oldest daughter, Marissa. And then Eric is currently Ricky Stenhouse's primary spotter. He spots Chris Wright for Bill McAnally in the Truck Series, and then does some work for Joey Gase in the O'Reilly's series. And so probably about 4 years ago, I started second spotting for Richard Coleman for Jeremy Clements, and I've been with him ever since. I got the opportunity to spot trucks at Daytona this year, and unfortunately our truck didn't make it, but that was cool. I always call Coleman my boss, and it's super neat that he just keeps throwing my name out there. And this year, when Eric signed a contract with Hayek, they said that if an opportunity arose that I could help out, that I could jump in, and here we are. So that was actually my first Cup race with Eric and Ricky, and I think we did all right. So our car might have not been the best yesterday, but we, as the four of us, I think did really well.
Yeah, and I hearing about all of that, I just think it's so cool. NASCAR is such a family sport. We see it, with all the different drivers. And how special is it to have all those moving, family members kind of all working together, especially like a weekend like Watkins Glen?
Yeah, it's funny. This weekend was actually kind of an off weekend for us because we actually have another daughter who is 16, and she goes to a ton of races also. So there's kind of like a running joke that we get our family photos every weekend. Um, it's been a little harder this year because Eric has got to go up top before, like the driver intros and whatnot. But we always kind of sneak one in, and so obviously our daughter is in school, so Eric and I have been traveling kind of by ourselves the last few weekends. So I know we haven't had a family photo, but yeah, it was kind of cool to actually get to work together. So a little different this weekend, but
It was a really fun race. Like I said, it was a lot of interesting things that happened during the race. I know Ricky didn't finish quite where he wanted to, but I heard some really good news about Ricky this morning, Lauren.
yeah, I'm super excited. I'm sure everyone has seen by now, but Ricky is re-signed for a multi-year extension. So that's great news. We love working with him. And I guess that also kind of puts to bed all the rumors on Hayek for at least for a while.
I think this is really exciting. It shows the strength of this race team and their commitment to Ricky as their driver. That's terrific. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm very excited for them. We work with Hendrick Motorsports. I feel like we're kind of like a satellite team, I'd say. And I mean, obviously we can see that, let's say us as a collective group, we all kind of missed this weekend.
Yeah, the Hendrick Alliance has got to be really good. Unfortunately, they had a very bad weekend. This was the first time, I believe, in 21 years, since 2005, they were unable to get all of their drivers within a top 20 finish. So I thought that was pretty interesting for the old Hendrick crew. But with last weekend when we were in Texas, and I was sitting next to you on the left, and I had Christopher Bell's uncle on the right of us. And then when that little collision took place at the end, I was like feeling like I was the bad luck charm. I'm sitting there going, "Oh man, Christopher Bell and Todd Gilliland just got into each other, and here I'm the one in the middle of both of you guys." We were all kind of laughing about it. I actually spoke with that gentleman this afternoon, and he's like, "I couldn't believe what went on last weekend. It was hilarious. We all had a great time."
Eric and I have laughed about that multiple times when he was like, that little yellow, like he was screaming about the yellow car. And I looked down and I'm like, oh my God, you're talking about the Love's car, like the Love's car. And then the look on his face when I said, oh, that's my son-in-law was absolutely priceless.
Oh, that was great. No, it was really cool. I was chatting with him and he said, hey, make sure you send me a link for the podcast tonight so I can send it over to Christopher.
Yeah. He had a little, I think him and Bubba had a little intense conversation this weekend after the race.
They did. And I'm wondering if it was because I think it was on lap 47 where Christopher Bell's spotter was trying to see everyone who's coming in, who's going out, and he was getting information on the radio. And so he started to go to pit and then came out and kind of got right behind Bubba, and he tried to get back ahead of him. So I don't know if that was what the confrontation was about or not, but I think that might have been a little bit of it. But Bubba Wallace didn't want, he went up there, showed his displeasure with the situation, and Christopher Bell is just kind of like, yeah, whatever. He's not one for confrontation.
He is like the most nonchalant one out there. So I was like, I'd be very surprised if he got really riled up on that.
Gotta love it. You don't love when tempers flare, whether it's a short track or a road course. Overall, I liked it. We added 10 laps. We had some track limits, the new horsepower. I mean, obviously, we all saw what SVG did. Just incredible, of course. But, I think outside of it being in early May, all in all, I'd say Watkins Glen was a success. We're on to the All-Star race in Dover. What's your thoughts on that with this All-Star race going to Dover?
I'm going to go with the two guys in my life, Todd and Ricky. I don't think it's either of their favorite tracks. Definitely not Todd's. I think Ricky does okay at Dover. The husband's saying that Ricky likes it. So yeah, I've actually only been to Dover personally once. And I think it was in maybe July last year. And so I am very excited that it's not going to be as humid personally. But I think a lot of drivers were thinking that it was like 75 laps. And then I heard a lot of drivers say that they had to race the whole thing. And then we went back and actually all kind of read the rules, and there's eliminations. So I don't know. Honestly, I don't really have any super opinions on it. It's another race and another opportunity to get better at a track that is probably not going to be an all-star race next year. So let's just take some good notes, I guess.
I agree with that 100%. And we're fixing to break down the whole all-star package here on the show. So for the listeners, keep tuned to that because it's very complicated from what I've seen so far with the inversion, with the 3 different segments. It's going to be interesting. And the All-Star Open is no longer a thing, so that puts more emphasis on the qualifying. NASCAR is just trying to switch it up. So
yeah. And I personally, I like the thought that we're doing like a different, like it's not at North Wilkesboro this year. I like that we like go to Bowman Gray for the beginning. I like that we're changing the last race of the season, the championship race. I like those changes. There's different drivers that are good at different tracks, right? And so I like knowing that, like, we're not going to Phoenix where, like historically, like Kevin Harvick was always good at. So like if he was in the final 4, like things are kind of swinging that direction. So obviously there's people that are really good at Homestead, and I'm excited to see like what the schedule ends with next year, and just I like those swaps.
I think it's going to be Vegas, but that's just what I'm hearing. Nothing's confirmed on that, but that's what it looks like.
Eric shaking his head that did you hear Vegas too? Yeah.
He's heard Vegas too? Okay. So
yeah.
That's unconfirmed, but sort of confirmed here in Mash the Gas.
Oh yeah. I'm like, I know that Watkins Glen put out a thing for definitely for September, so I think they were trying to like ease the fans. Uh, I know Ben Kennedy made the schedule last year, and then this year they took the lady from Phoenix, the lady that was in charge of Chicago. That's who's in charge of the schedule now. So I don't know. I'm sure you guys have heard that change that happened.
I did have one question for you because a couple of
Yeah.
years ago, Kevin and I did run into Brad Doherty, and I know he works with Hayek and is part owner of Hayek, and with just one of the nicest guys we had talked to. And I still can't believe how tall he is. I mean, I'm 6'2", and I still had to look up at the guy, but he's just such a friendly guy.
I don't think I have met him. I'm not sure how tall he is. How tall is Brad Doherty?
It's pretty tall.
My dad, I'm Dutch. My dad is 6'7". And so I feel like, oh, Eric said he might be taller than my dad, which that's, you know, I grew up with all tall people. I'm like the second shortest, and I'm 5'8".
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, we were super stoked to have you on, and maybe your husband will join us in a future episode. Eric, what do you think about that? See if we can get a head shake.
Oh, yes, he said yes. He's over here driving, and I got you on my earbuds. I'm sorry.
No worries. We just like to have fun with you guys.
Yeah,
Good times.
yeah, Dover. We might be able to get some exciting news after Dover. So I wonder. I was wondering how many. I keep thinking that like there was going to be a ball that dropped, right? Like there's what 6 or 7 drivers that contracts end, and so maybe Ricky Stenhouse is the first ball to drop on contract negotiations this coming up next couple of weeks.
It is usually around the All-Star week where we start hearing kind of what's going to happen, what's coming down the pike, schedule releases, which driver's going where, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah. There should be some interesting moves, I think.
yep,
I don't know, but I think
I think you're right.
so. Yeah.
Well, Lauren, on behalf of everyone here at Match Guest, I want to thank you for your time. It's great to make your acquaintance, and thanks for giving us some insight.
Yeah, of course. Have fun, guys.
Yeah, it was really nice, Lauren. Thanks for being on the show. She's always wonderful to talk with. She was so nice when I met her in Texas last weekend. And her husband, Eric, going to have him on the show soon. You know, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, just a really good race at Watkins Glen. A lot of good news out in the air. What do you guys think a little bit, though, about old Bubba Wallace coming up and talking to Seabell after the race? I mean, Seabell didn't seem like he wanted to have anything to do with it. I can't tell if this was that incident that happened on lap 47, you know, like we were talking about earlier with Lauren, about, you know, Christopher Bell going into pit, and then he kind of came out up on Bubba. But what do you guys think?
It's so hard to tell what goes through these drivers' minds. It most likely probably is that. It could be a few things. Maybe it's accumulation of a few instances that maybe in Bubba's mind. But yeah, you're not going to get too far with Christopher Bell, and I think it's both good and bad because I like both sides of the spectrum. Because you look at like I liked when Ross Chastain threw a punch at Noah Gragson, you know, mentioning Ricky Stenhouse and Kyle Busch. It's fun. It's entertaining. But on the other end, it's also good to see a driver that can kind of stay composed and keep it together. And who knows, you know, these drivers, they'll figure it out eventually, you know, especially being Toyota teammates, you're going to have to figure it out.
You know, everybody's got different personalities as well. So, you know, you have to kind of chalk that up there. Bubba likes to express his feelings. Christopher Bell just kind of like, you know, yeah, okay, I'll listen to you. And then I don't think it even bothers him at all. So I thought that was kind of interesting, though, after the race. But you know, another team, you know, with SVG and everyone at Trackhouse, we know that they've been needing a little bit of I guess you'd say lately. But watching them finish, or as far as qualifying, I mean, finishing P1, P4 for Ross, and a P5 for Connor, they did really well in qualifying. But that's all going to change here in a couple weeks.
Well, all in all, I mean, we were really curious to see what Connor Zilic was going to do, right? Because this was his, you know, a good opportunity for him to go out. We saw what he did in the O'Reilly race. Fortunately, he tucked in that window net, so he didn't have a 2025 repeat. But I mean, with all due respect to Connor, he goes out and runs the fast lap of the race with a 72.54, right, which was quicker than our race winner at a 72.99. So I think that, you know, Denny was kind of saying he was seeing him smoke that tire almost into every braking zone. I think that was ultimately the demise of that situation. We knew that Ty Gibbs was saving fuel. Connor wanted to be let loose to try and run him down. Nobody was going to stop the 97. But all in all, I mean, I think had the cards fell a little bit differently, you know, we mentioned that caution that wasn't thrown, you know, right around 10 to go. I think that was kind of an interesting thing. Didn't see a ton of yellows here, guys. You know, we mentioned the tent flying out onto the racetrack, which is something I've never seen before. But with us adding those 10 laps, with us putting on the track limits, I was surprised for the lack of yellows.
And it was kind of funny because I think that tent flying onto the track actually got a little bit more airtime than a lot of the race. I saw someone on Twitter saying, Fox did a better job covering that than they actually did the race. But I think we've got one more race left with Fox before we go to NBC with the All Star race coming up, and after that we're going to go to NBC or we're going to Prime next.
Yeah, so the Coke 600 will be prime. We have one more race on FS1 for the All-Star race here in Dover, and then the prime team will take over before we go to TNT and then NBC.
It's hard to keep track of all these networks. They just keep spreading it out. But, I guess that helps the purse money. NASCAR's making a little bit more money. They're starting to spread it out a little bit more. Kind of it was thanks to that lawsuit probably that, Front Row Motorsports and Denny Hamlin 2311 had. So kind of interesting there. But I know the purse last year at Watkins Glen was about 9.4 million. And this year it was about 11.3 million. So it did step up a little bit of sponsorship money for these teams, and they need it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You got to divvy the money up a little better. I want to see the sport grow. I want to be able to see. I just wish we could see what it'd be like if these teams could spend funding on other things, like promotion and social media. I mean, we talk about how big social media is all the time. I mean, clearly, I work with it every day. And I think that it could just branch out to a whole, the younger generation. You could probably get, if more money could be spent there, it could potentially help these teams grow, especially like we mentioned, the underfunded teams, or maybe the teams that don't have the same amount of employees or resources that these other teams have. It would be better just to see if they had a little extra money that they could have fun with, because ultimately the sport is supposed to be fun. I know it's a job, but we all watch it. We all enjoy it. It should be fun at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Sky, for sure. I mean, social media is such a huge part of what we do day in and day out now. Whether you're a business, a race team, a sports team, you name it, that's how you reach the people that support you the most. And I think we see Carson Hocevar do a great job with it. I think Connor Zilic does a good job with it. These guys are very active over there, and that's what builds that fan base. That's that direct connection. So huge part of the sport. Definitely is going to continue to drive new race fans to the track. And, if you're a fan of our most popular driver, Old Chase, Hendrick Motorsports, like we were talking with Lauren earlier. I mean, first time since 2005 that we've seen Hendrick not place inside the top 20 on a road course. I mean, something went severely wrong there, Jeff.
Well, it's tough because the 24 spun out, later in the race, and then the rest of them they just could not get it together. I mean, Kyle Larson, we saw him in the race. It almost looked like he was trying to put gas back in his tank, but he wasn't. And I know Clint Boyer and Harvick were up there saying, well, maybe he's got tire issues, but Clint was like, no, it's probably all the marbles from all the rubber that gets laid down on this track. But overall, they just did not have a great day. I mean, it was really surprising for me to see the finish that they had.
But that's just racing. You can't always have good days. I mean, that's what makes the good days better. Especially coming from a Logano fan, because it has definitely been rough. Penske in general, with all of the things with Blaney and his pit crew, it's been a rough season. But I thought I wanted to mention this last week, and while we have a little time now, I guess it'd be kind of funny. I've been saying that Kyle Larson and Joey are so similar, and I thought it was hilarious when Fox put that graphic up showing that they both are winless. They're both not, up to where they should be. Fortunately, Larson still is in the chase at the moment, so he still has that going for him.
Yeah, that was pretty funny to see those come up, because I was really shocked too. It's weird not seeing Kyle Larson have a win by now. And you brought up Noah Gragson a minute ago, and I know last week when we were talking about Watkins Glen, this is the only track where they go into the pits in the opposite direction, and Noah Gragson, he lost quite a few spots because two of his pit crew members actually ran into each other, kind of getting confused on where they're usually at while running the pits. But a lot of teams also switch their front and their rear tire changers to switch them just for this race. So, yeah, there were some mistakes made on pit road, but not as many as we saw last week.
That's a good thing. That's a good takeaway from the weekend. With us adding 10 laps to this race, the pit strategy I found very interesting with that. And I know these crew chiefs had a couple different approaches to it. Had we have seen that yellow fall with that 10 to go, I think, could Michael McDowell have gotten up there and battled with the 97? I don't know. I mean, he had an amazing comeback as well, because he was kind of on that SVG strategy where he had to drive back through the field as well. So and we saw Ty Gibbs was able to stretch that fuel so long and manage those tires, limp it to the end. Great finish for Chase Briscoe, his career best finish at Watkins Glen. Tyler Reddick bringing home P5. So the pit strategy I found to be very interesting. With this new, additional 10 laps, more horsepower, a lot of marble tire wear. All in all, I was surprised, like I said earlier, that we didn't see more yellows. But still a good takeaway. I still think Watkins Glen is one of the best road course products that we offer.
Yes, like I said last week, Watkins Glen has been my favorite for years, and it doesn't change. I mean, I just enjoy watching it so much. And I, Tyler Reddick it is insane what he's been able to do this season. I mean, I feel like every week he's finishing in the top 10. He's winning. It's like 50-50 at this point. It is just incredible. And I know I said in the beginning of the season, but I still think that he's the championship favorite. Like at this point, I don't know who's even coming close to him. I know we said Hamlin and everything, but where's Hamlin? He's not in the top 10 this week.
It's going to be tough to beat him. It really is. Like you mentioned, he's just always there. I didn't expect him to get P5 out of this race at Watkins Glen. I just didn't see it coming, and then out of nowhere, boom, there he is, right there at the end of the race. So yeah, really good job for Tyler Reddick and that 2311 team. But like you mentioned, Denny Hamlin, he's 129 points behind, and Chase Elliott with 145 points behind Tyler Reddick. So these guys are going to have to start winning some stages. I know we saw Chase Elliott literally stay out trying to get on stage one, trying to get that last spot for P10, get that 1 point out of it. And he came up short, and it wound up, I think that's probably what cost him the race, because then he had to go in and pit, and he started way in the back, and he just never could catch up from there.
Well, every point matters for sure, and especially now that we're back to the chase format. I mean, we saw last year when we were in the playoff format, Kyle Larson missed the regular season championship by 1 point. So, you got to do what you can to get these stage points, try to finish. Every position is going to matter, to try to make your way into this top 16, when we get later into this season. So, with Reddick sitting at a 129 point advantage, I mean, I still think it's going to take multiple DNFs. It's going to take a lot of hiccups by that 45 camp for anybody to really go up there, not only, take away the lead, but to run away with it. It's going to be extremely difficult.
Yeah, and one thing I read up on was Tyler Reddick right now has the best average finish of the first 12 races in the Cup Series in over 30 years, since Ernie Irving did it in 1994. His average finish right now is 5.67. Dale Earnhardt was second at 6.08 win or position for 1996. Then the list kind of goes down to Kevin Harvick, Jimmy Johnson, Stephen Labonte, Jeff Gordon, and Joey Logano, Sky's guy. In 2018, Joey Logano's average finish was just under P7 for the first 12 races. So to see Tyler Reddick be able to get that below 6 and come in at 5.6 as an average finish in the first 12 races is absolutely incredible and phenomenal job.
Lights out fast. I mean, these guys find ways to get top fives, wins, you name it, and they do it everywhere. This isn't, no disrespect to SVG, but we know he dominates road courses. Reddick can win anywhere. He can win a short track, a road course, a super speedway, an intermediate, and that's what I think it's going to take for SVG to be able to compete at a championship level, right? We know he's embarrasses the field when we go to these road courses, but we need to start seeing some top fives on these ovals. He's going to need to be able to put a 1.5 mile program together. Their super speedway package, decent, right? But all in all, I think a big takeaway from this weekend was Trackhouse had speed for sure. They've kind of turned the corner. RCR had speed. Those guys are improving. Hendrick, I think, was the biggest loser of this weekend.
100% biggest loser of the weekend. Unfortunately, it's weird just seeing their team do this bad for, not just Watkins Glen, but almost in general right now, other than Chase Elliott. He's got 2 wins this season. But the rest of the crew needs to catch up. There's something not going on there. And Lauren and I were actually talking about it in Texas, about Chevy is the only team that, they started a new body this year, but Toyota is the only one that has not. So that's where we're seeing a lot of these Toyotas win, is because they have not changed their body yet, whereas Ford and Chevy have.
I mean, that'll definitely do it. You change one little thing. We've seen it. I feel like we've seen that a lot with Kyle Busch since the new car and stuff. I just feel like, I don't know, he hasn't been quite the same. You change anything to these cars, I mean, it's almost like you have to learn how to walk again, it seems like.
Yeah, it sure does.
Well, and just with everything that's constantly evolving with the sport, and more horsepower here, different tire package there. I think when we first rolled out this next gen car, Kyle definitely came out of the gates a little bit stronger when he went to RCR. Right, we know he's on a long running kind of winless streak, but they're headed in the right direction. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. They're starting to turn the corner, and I think that's something to build on as we get ready to go into this All Star weekend at Dover. Should be interesting. I mean, we know the All Star race last year took place in North Wilkesboro, which now moves to a points race this year, which I'm excited about, Jeff. But Dover, the Monster Mile, old Miles the Monster himself, is going to deliver a very interesting race weekend.
Well, one thing before we dive into the All Star race 100% here, I want to hear your thoughts. Denny Hamlin has pretty much hinted that next year will probably be his last full time season. Now, is that true or not? I'm not sure, but Denny kind of said that in his own words when he was getting interviewed with Bob Pockris. So it's going to be interesting to see what Denny does. But he's a damn good driver. I'd hate to see him go out without a Cup championship, but it's might not be in the making for him.
Well, we'll see. I mean, speaking of Dover, he's won the last two, 24, 25. We'll see what he does with the All-Star. But I think it kind of adds up. I mean, that's about where he wanted to land, Sky. I think that's going to be a good way to round it out with, a long tenure, Joe Gibbs Racing. Opens up the door for a part-time schedule if he wants to do something like Jimmy Johnson's doing with Legacy, where he can run a one-off race, with his own 2311. I think that'll kind of, the stars will align for Denny, I feel.
I agree. I mean, I remember how defeated he looked at the end of last season, and it's no fun to look like that. And so hopefully if he steps back and he can kind of choose the races he wants to run or whatever, and if that's what he chooses to do, and probably bring some of that spark back. But championship or not, Denny Hamlin's incredible. Definitely 100%, Hall of Famer. I mean, 3 Daytona 500s, that's just incredible in and of itself.
And as many wins as he has in his career, obviously getting in the top 10 now. I know he still wants a few more wins, wants to get it notched up one more. And like Kevin mentioned, he did win last year at Dover. So maybe he'll get a win in Dover. It's not a points race, so it won't really count much other than some bragging rights and, some fun. But if that's the only one he wins in a while, he's going to need to step it up to get those wins.
Well, like Mark Martin did. Mark Martin won a lot of races and was a long runner of our sport. Never did get himself a Cup title. Denny's kind of in that boat right now. But I've heard Denny say so many times that the most important thing to him is race wins. He just wants to keep winning races, keep racking up trophies. And then you kind of flip it over to someone like Kyle Busch, right? Kyle Busch has won championships, won a lot of races, never won the Daytona 500. So every driver is chasing something different, to kind of round out their elite career. It doesn't change the fact that both those guys are Hall of Famers, but we kind of always put that judgment on, well, he never won a championship. Dale Jr. never won a championship. Still all-star drivers.
And speaking of all-star, are we ready for $1 million?
Oh, we're ready. We're definitely ready. I just don't know how ready I am for Dover to be the place we do it. I mean, it's a great race facility. I was there in 2014 when Jeff Gordon won that race. That concrete surface is abrasive. It does take a long time for the tire wear to kick in. I'm curious to see with this, larger horsepower, how that's going to wear out. The segments are kind of wild here, guys. So we're going to have 350 lap event, okay, with 3 different segments. Segment 1 is going to include the entire field. We're scratching the All-Star Open, so get that out of there. Qualifying results will instead determine the full field for segment 1 for a 75 lap sprint. Now, at the end of that, we're going to eliminate it down to a 26-car field, and then it will invert, which we've seen them do in the past with some of these all-star races. So it'll flip. We'll run that, and then we're going to run a final 200-lap segment, which will consist of 26 drivers. And obviously, to be eligible, to be guaranteed in 25 and 26 Cup Series victors, former Cup champions, and a fan vote winner. And then whatever's left amongst that 26 will be a combined finishing position amongst segments 1 and 2. So a lot to unpack there. It does sound super confusing, but I like the fact that we're going to kind of mix it up a bit. If you dominate stage 1 or segment 1, segment 2, you're going to have to earn it in segment 3, but it's a 200 lap segment, so you're guaranteed a pit stop there.
Yeah, I'm down for, it's non-points paying, so try something new, try something different. NASCAR seems to be doing that a lot this year. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but I'm excited to at least try it. We mentioned Dover. I don't mind it too much. I think it'll be a good race. It's It's kind of hard to pick, I guess, who you would think would win. I suppose, though, a little bit early, but
Sky, I was going to ask you, who you going to take? We don't have much time left.
why? I'll go ahead. I'm going
I
to take
want you
Joey
first.
Logano because he needs some oomph. He needs to get his. I know it doesn't count for anything, but maybe he could win this All-Star race and kind of be like get back into the mindset of, all right, let's finish in the top 10 and not 30th.
$1 million will do you a whole lot of fun. So anyway, well, I think, I'm having a tough one on this one, but I'm going to stretch it just a little bit. I think Ty Gibbs is doing really well. I'm going to go with the 54 car.
Yeah, it's a really good pick. I've been crunching these numbers. We know it's very different than what we saw in the points. Denny Hamlin seems like the obvious pick, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to go with Christopher Bell. He led 67 laps here at Dover a year ago. He's due. He needs a little bit of some oomph as well. I think the 20 gets it done for the All-Star weekend.
Well, there you have it, folks. There's our picks, and we're moving on.
We are on for sure. And thanks again to Lauren for joining our program. Sky, do you want to shout out her social media so we can have our listeners and viewers get in touch with Lauren over there?
So she actually has two. She just started one, but her main one that she said is going to be Homeless Homes. Homes is going to be HOLMES. And then she has a one that she just started specifically for racing and what she's doing with spotting and all of that. And it's Race Har. So that's going to be race and then HURR. So it's cool to see her start that up. I mean, I'm all for starting an Instagram for racing. I get it 100%.
Well, thanks again for everyone that tunes into our program here at Mash the Gas Podcast. Be sure to follow us across social media at Mash the Gas, NASCAR Sky over there at NASCAR Sky. Mash that subscribe button on whatever platform you are listening to us on. We're on to the All-Star race, the final one for Fox, and then we turn it over to Prime for the Coke 600. We'll be back next Monday night to break down All-Star action. And until then, Jeff,
Mash the gas.